Hello, hello. And how do I pronounce your name? Is it Lee or Lay?
It's Lei. I was born in Hawaii and I was given a Hawaiian name. And so Lei is the very short version of a very long name. And it's much easier for people even then, a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Lei, just like the flower necklace.
Okay, thank you. So, Lay Mohr,
Mhm.
Lay Mohr. Welcome. Thank you so much for talking to me. And we were just talking a little bit before I pressed the record button, and we were talking about how we don't script things because our guides will come in and say what they want to say anyway, right? And I think it is good. Like I'll do work and meditation and whatever. I don't want to give up working on certain things and forms, but it has relieved a lot of anxiety that if this doesn't work, they're going to give me something else. How is
I
that for
absolutely,
you?
I absolutely agree. Before I knew that I had them coming through me, and I would write things out and I'd try and memorize them. I was like, I cannot do this, and I still can't. I'm not really good with memorization and just pulling it back out. To me, it sounds very scripted and very stiff. And you can tell when I'm talking with you, when they are talking through me, it just flows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you channel the wisdom, what you call the wisdom keepers, or they call the wisdom keepers, not you. You didn't make that up, right? We don't make this up. We don't make those decisions. So I saw you on probably the Jeff Mara show, I think. And at that time, you didn't have a website or anything way back
I
when.
did. I did.
Maybe. Okay. And so I didn't contact you then, but I wanted to. It's like on my list. And then recently, I see that you're doing interviews or conversations with another lady. And I am really, really enjoying those conversations a lot.
I appreciate that. She is my very dear soul sister friend.
You can tell. Yeah, you can tell. You guys are, and she's in the States too,
She's
right?
actually in Canada.
Okay, so even further from you than I thought, really. No.
She's actually closer to me than you are because she's in the BC area.
Oh, okay. BC. I thought she said DC, but BC. Okay. Yeah. But you guys have wonderful, wonderful conversations about things. So if you could just talk about how this all started, like when is the first time the Wisdom Keepers came through? Did you know who they were? What did they have to tell you? Why did they? Like,
As I think back on it now, I have been receiving messages probably since I was a child. The first time I remember receiving some sort of a message, and it didn't make sense at the time. I was about maybe 5 years old, and I was walking down the street with an adult, female adult. I don't know exactly who it was. It could have been my mother, but I don't know. I don't remember any of that at all. We were walking down a sidewalk, and there was a lady walking toward us. And I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt, I just knew she didn't like my dress. I know it sounds simple, but that was, if you want to know where it
but at
actually
that
started,
age, that's important.
that's
That's
where it
what's important.
started. And I didn't actually, I was raised in a very strict Catholic family. My father was extremely strict Catholic. And you didn't do these things. You didn't talk about these things. You didn't even know they existed, or you were going to hell.
Right? They
And
were all spirits and all demons, right? Yeah,
yeah,
right.
well,
Okay.
and if you know my history at all, and that's pretty much out there, my mother was abusive. Um, and as I was growing up, and the world around me thought that my parents were perfect, that I lived in heaven on earth. And I'm like, if this is heaven on earth and hell is worse than this, I want nothing to do with it. So I pushed it all down inside of me, and I didn't even admit it for a very long time. Even after my first NDE, it got pushed down in me, and it stayed there until the wisdom keepers, who didn't tell me their name at the time, started sending me little messages. And I started getting these weird things, and I'm like, now this is kind of interesting. And by this time, I've made it to the point. This is decades later, and I'm like, okay, there's something else for me, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I know there's something else for me. And so I was starting to look for it, and then these messages would come through. And I live in Hawaii, on the big island of Hawaii, and I live not too far from where the 2018 eruption was. In fact, it's about 4 miles from it. Well, we knew that something was coming for about 2 months before the eruption actually happened. And weird things, just weird things started happening. Like there was some people from the fire department came and asked if we wanted smoke alarms put in our house. And all these things around fire started happening. Fire. Well, maybe, and there's nothing happening at this time except some earthquakes and, the ongoing eruption that has now ended. But it was at that point ongoing for about 30 years. And so it wasn't like it was doing anything now. But it came to the point where fire kept coming up. You need to have a what they call a go bag, a grab and go bag. In case something happens and there's a fire, you need to be able to jump out quickly and take whatever you have with you. I'm like, what is this all about? What's going on? So finally I asked, do nothing and everything and whatever you want to call it. I asked, what is going on here? Why am I going through this? And it was answered immediately, but it was not answered the way that anyone would expect. This was, if you wish to call her this, Madame Pele answered in her very female voice, and she said, are you ready to transform? Okay, someone like that is asking you this question. What are you supposed to say? No?
Yeah. Can you answer the question first?
Can you give me choices?
Yeah, that's right. Right.
So I said, I guess so. And it began.
Yeah.
And through the eruption, I worked with people. By that time, I had the skills to be a calmer, to be a guide, to help people through traumatic experiences. I'd had enough of them, and I'd worked through my own enough to be able to do that. Now, that's what I did during the eruption, and that's how I started to transform. Did she call herself a wisdom keeper? No, she didn't even give herself a name. It was a knowing. Ah, this is Pele. Okay, so that was the beginning. And then, of course, I started getting more of these messages and more of these messages. And there just came a point in time when I can't ignore these messages anymore. I know they're there. And I was doing automatic writing, and they were talking.
Why did you want to ignore them?
I didn't want to.
Some of them unpleasant, or just too weird?
It wasn't that I tried to ignore them. It's that they were not letting me say that. Even if I had wanted to, I could not ignore them. They speak very clearly, in my mind, very loudly at times, and they make their presence known. It's not something that can be ignored, even if I wanted to, and I don't. They're wonderful, and I love them.
Right, that's why anyway, I wondered. Yeah, you couldn't if you wanted to, but sometimes they are pushy.
So they're not pushy as much. No, if they want me to say something, and they probably will during this conversation, and they will come through me. And if I'm waiting for you to talk and finish or something, it'll get louder and louder and louder. And they'll, so as soon as there's a break, I'm like, okay, I'm saying it now.
Okay. Well, feel
So
free to say whatever you want,
that's
whatever
just
they want.
the way they work. And
Yeah.
so as time went on, I knew that I was being guided. I knew that I didn't know what to call them. I didn't know, do I call you angels? And it didn't really matter. I knew they were there.
Yeah.
And then there came a point in time, was it last year in June, when we had the Schumann anomaly? Where the Schumann residents went all sorts of crazy and did all sorts of wonderful geometric patterns. That's the Schumann resonance.
Was that
For those
last
who
year?
don't
Wow.
know,
Okay.
is they call it the heartbeat of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
There is a field around the earth that,
Mm-hmm.
everything like lightning strikes and it's an energy field that's around the earth,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of wavers like this most of the time. During the Schumann anomaly, which was right about um, the solstice in June. In fact, it was that week. It became it was doing all these beautiful geometric patterns. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Okay. It was
lovely.
a year ago. Seems like
And
shorter.
at
Yeah.
that,
Okay.
just
Yeah.
before that time, and I can't tell you exactly the day,
Mm-hmm.
but they mentioned that they were the wisdom keepers. And it's the wisdom keepers is a shortened version. They actually call themselves the wisdom keepers of lost civilizations. Wisdom keepers is a
Interesting.
little easier. So,
Yep.
but that's who they are. And they told me that they are here at this point in time to guide us through all of the trials and tribulations, the changes, the transformation, everything we're going through, to be one of the entities, or a multitude. They're together as a group, but they're one amongst many um, guides, whatever you want to call them now. But
Yeah.
they were here to help us to know that what happened with their civilizations, so that we could
Oh,
avoid what they went through and we could make it through. And so that's
they
how
really
they
want us
came
to
up.
succeed here.
They want us to be here. They want us to make it. And I have no doubt that we, the species, is going to make it. But
Yeah.
I mean, we all know chaos comes before transformation and change. Chaos is a part of it. Destruction and creation are the same process. Um, and so not all of us who are here now are going to make it through. And it's going to be longer, probably. The process is going to be longer than most of us will be here. But we will be able to pass on what we know, what we've learned, what we've experienced to the next generations. I love the next generation. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Me too.
that's
Me
what we
too.
do, is we give it to them, and they will take it and run with it. And they are already doing that. So it's just wonderful to see that. But they are here in support of all of that.
Yeah. So who gave you the term a calmer? I hadn't heard that before. I read it on your website that you're a calmer. I was like, wow, that's what a perfect term for that. Like I could identify as a light worker because they've given me images of, the lights on the grid, a net of light, that kind of thing. But it doesn't express the warmth and the work, that a calmer does.
And I didn't know the term either. Even when I went in, I started working at what they called the hub, which was a place where everybody who was being affected by the eruption could come for support of whatever kind. Maybe if they've lost a house and they have nothing, we would get them everything down to toothbrushes, toothpaste, everything, so that they could feel like, okay, we've got this. But what they didn't do was, they didn't have somebody who worked with their mental needs. I did that. I knew how to do that. I'd been doing it. And so I didn't even ask them. I just started doing it. And after the eruption was over, I was driving into town with somebody who was, I guess he was actually a psychologist or a registered counselor, whatever you want to call him.
Mhm.
And he said, "Oh, so you're a calmer too?" And I went, "Oh, is that what it's called?"
Yes, I am.
I guess I am.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. Yeah.
And
So
that's
they had
pretty
kind of
much what I,
prepped you for that in addition to
well, that was
you
part
had
of my
been in boot
preparation.
camp your
Yeah.
whole life, probably.
They
Like
had
I
been
look back on my
preparing
life.
me. They had been preparing me for all of my life. Now that I look back on it, I
Yes.
didn't realize that at the time. But
Yes.
my transition into being a channel or a channeler, either way,
Yes.
was much easier than a lot of people's. It had its little ups and downs and things happening to my body and things like this. But it was a lot easier than what a lot of channels have gone through because they had been doing it for years. They had been bringing me forward for years in a way that I would be able to handle and not go, I can't do this. They
Right.
made it very easy for me. So,
Mhm.
and I really appreciate that. I'm very grateful for the way they did it.
So would you say that they're more galactic, angelic? Do they describe, do they give you visions of what they are? Is it more just a feeling? How does that
They were
work?
all in human form or in form, in human, they were all on this earth at some point in time. Uh, and yes, during the Schumann anomaly, they did show me themselves. I got I got very clear pictures of some of them, and I'll go into that. And others were kind of in the background. I
Mm.
now have a much clearer picture of who almost all of them are. They don't, except for one, have name. Well, two have names. Pele is one of them, by the way, and the others kind of. My neighbor next.
I love it.
I have to preface this. My neighbor next door, she has geese and chickens and such, and so the area of her yard that faces mine or that butts up against mine
Yeah.
is not necessarily what you would call picturesque. And it was kind of messy at that point in time. And I'm
Okay.
just sitting there on the couch looking over into the yard for no apparent reason. Obviously they wanted me to. Um, and this is like right in the Schumann anomaly. And all of a sudden they started parading in front of me. And I'm like, oh my. The first one that appeared was the Atlantean. And she is tall. She is thin. She is absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. And she's wearing her blue robe and her headdress with all the crystals in it. And she, I mean, so tall, so elegant, and it's just like, oh wow. And then
Like
the one
breathtaking.
breathtaking, and the one
Yeah.
that came right next to her or kind of beside her, came up beside her, is the one from Mu, which a lot of people call erroneously call
Lemuria.
Lemuria.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not. It's Mu. It's even in the Hawaiian dictionary as Mu. Um, and they're very. He's very. That's it. It's called Mu. It's not Lemuria.
It's very
Okay,
important to him. Okay.
it is important to him.
Okay.
And he's this little teeny tiny thing that's maybe 3 feet tall, and he looks, I mean, like a box. He's not. He's very muscular. He's extremely strong. You can tell that, but his shape literally looks like a box. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, here in Hawaii, they have lots of cultural mentions to a group that they call the Minahune, which basically
Okay.
means small people.
Okay.
And he's actually, and the who If you shorten the Minahuni, you can get Mu in it. And so he's one of them. But
Makes
all
sense.
of these beings coming through were the wisdom keepers of their particular society at the time when they saw it crashing. Like we can see ours doing all sorts of fun things now. They were seeing it and they knew what was going to happen, but they couldn't stop it.
Right.
So anyway, after the one from Mu, there came the one from Chaco. And I now know that the others were one from Angkor Wat, one from Egypt, and I'll go into her a little bit more in a minute. And there's apparently 7 of them, I've been told.
Okay.
They haven't said that's exact number, but I had somebody who was a seer that I talked to, and he said, you have 7 beings around you. Okay, maybe they are. I said, I've never counted them. They've never told me how many. They just are. He says 7.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good for me. I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to him again, and he mentioned, and he wanted me to tell him about these beings, and so I was telling him, and I mentioned the one from Egypt, and he said, she's female. Okay, I
Okay.
can go with that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, she's female. And then I was getting these messages. She really wanted to tell me more. And so, okay, fine. I got into my automatic writing and I'm thinking about it. And then I did a little bit of, research. And apparently her name is Seshat. Uh,
Fish shot.
Seshat, who happens to be some say wife, but she says daughter. And a lot of people say daughter of Thoth.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
and the reason that she let me know her name is because she wanted me to have the credibility of her name when she tells me about the because she's a scribe and her name means female scribe. She's the one who put all the pictures, the petroglyphs and everything in the pyramids. She's the scribe. And so
Wow. I thought Toth
when
was the scribe. Was the
Thoth
scribe.
was the builder, his daughter is the scribe.
That's what she wanted clarified.
That's
Because
what she
he's
wanted to
described
clarify.
as
And also,
okay.
she wants to bring through me the messages. There's parts of the pyramids that have been scrubbed clean. She wants to bring through me the message of what is missing there so that we can have the complete picture. And that's why she needed me to have her name and her credibility so that people would be able to believe that this is what I'm doing. I'm not just pulling it out of thin air somewhere.
You mentioned a great point because when you're talking about seeing beings in your neighbor's yard in the middle of the day and they look different, and I'd really like to know what Pele looks like too. We have to do that before we end. But I have been, I don't want to say called crazy. I've been saying that for a long time. I know we shouldn't say that now, but for lack of a better term, like, Jodi's always had her problems. She's always been a, left of center troublemaker, if you will, that kind of thing.
You're just
So,
making it up. Yes, I've heard it.
yeah, yeah, and going through all of that, like now, all of that has really been taken away. And I'm like, I know that this is true. And I can say this now, but still, like, how do you do that? How do you go out and say, okay, I'm credible now. I have her name and her name. I think people are listening now. They're not saying like go and take meds. Like people are taking it more seriously now than when was this 2018, right? We've come so far even in that short time. But what happened with you in that regard?
I didn't really think too much about it when they came through, and with the indies, well, the second NDE, well, the second actual NDE, the SDE, which is a shared death experience, and I had more around death type things that have happened. There's no way I could make them up. I don't have that kind of creativity to make that kind of a story up. And it just, the things that have happened to me that felt so much more real than anything I'd ever felt before, starting from the first NDE, which I pushed down. And then when it came back up, I'm like, oh yeah. But it feels so much more real than anything else could. And when they're coming through me and they've got this power coming through me, people can actually see it. They will see the lights around me. They'll see things changing, like the lighting will change and such, and they can see it. And people are just like, yeah, look, you can see it. I can't fake that.
No, you can't fake that. So I started opening up the Akashic records, and now I don't know if it's exactly automatic writing. It probably would be. I am kind of dictating, though, what they're downloading. And so for a long time, I would be like, did I write this? Could somebody write this? Especially in, like, I'm pretty good. I've always been a pretty good writer if I could sit my butt down and pay attention for a little while. So I was like, well, maybe I could. Then there are other things I'm like, no, like it rhymes, it makes sense. This is information that I'm learning. I'm Googling words and definitions. Still when they give me a word and pop a word in my head, I will look up the definitions. Even if I know what it is, that definition is like, it's just clearer even, So
Let me just point out, yes, this is automatic writing. Automatic writing is you just write whatever comes out.
yeah.
And I can ask a question, or if there's something on my mind, I can just sit down and it'll come out. The way that I know it's not me is the voice that they use is not mine. I can look back and read it, and I'm like, a lot of times I have to like work through it to figure out what the words that are on the page are saying. If I'd written it, I'd know. By the way, the other way that I know, the last two books that I wrote,
right.
and my name is on them, I didn't write. I have written books before, and it takes, it's years process. Both of the last two books took a matter of weeks to get from nothing to the finished product.
You just
And
need to type it in.
Yeah, the last one, it's called There Was No Fear, and it's about my experiences with NDEs and the SDE. And it took 2 weeks. And at the end, when I had done it all, and I thought, okay, that's good, and I let it sit for a little bit, and I thought, oh, I've got to add this, and I've got to add this, and I've got to add this. And I went back to the manuscript. It's all there. I didn't write it. My name's on it. I didn't write it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would tell my family at the time, and I'm like, I really don't think this is me. And I don't know, like, I'd really like that. You're a good writer. You've always been very smart. And like, I'm not saying that I'm not. Like, I can own that skill set. I'm very proud of that. Right. But it's not. It's not. And it just got clearer and clearer when they would say things like Lord, thou. Yeah, that's Yeshua.
Yeah, it's not your voice.
No, it's not the words I would use, not my voice. I can't rhyme or have the cadence. Sometimes, like even now when I'm writing, I'm like, how are you gonna get something that rhymes with that? And then boom, it would come right out, And now they're starting to, like, I'll just get the downloads throughout the day. But they don't talk to me like you're saying the voice is very loud and clear. I might have asked for that. Like, I can't have one more thing with my ADD.
Well, and I have the ADHD thing too, but it doesn't have anything to do with that. Although I think it's possible, it makes us better channels. But that's, I don't have any backup for that. It just seems that way. A lot of the people that I know of who are channels also seem to be something ADHD like.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that
and
does
it,
make
and it,
sense.
and it could be, I don't
Yeah,
know. What I
yeah,
can say about it though is that when I can do it in numerous ways. I can sit down and I can write down the question, and they will go in. Sometimes they'll write as much as 4 pages to answer one question. Sometimes it will be shorter than that. It doesn't. There's no specific length, but it's not me writing, and it's
yeah.
in their voice, just like you said.
Mhm.
But they also come to me when especially when I'm with a client, somebody who's come to me who would like to have a little bit of, they are probably in a space somewhere like I was. They have, they're in a, they know that there's something more for them, but they're not really sure what it is. And they need a little bit of guidance to be able to work through that. That's the kind of thing that I do for others. But I was in that position at some point in time, and they were doing this for me. And now they are doing it for everybody who comes to me. And every time I sit in a session, they're there. And you can hear their voice coming out. The people that I talk to can hear their voice coming out. And I'm frequently going, and they say that I need to say this right now.
Yeah, like
So
that's my new lexicon is, oh, there's I'm hearing,
yeah.
that's kind of
And
the new world.
it's not so much that I'm recognizing and knowing, um, and they're, it's translating in my brain into the exact words that they want it to be, though none of them spoke English. So, but that's how it works for channels, is the information comes in, it gets, that's why we process, or that we go through the process to be channels, so
Mm-hmm.
that that energy can come in and it can be translated as it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's and they do it in any number of ways. It can be really simple, like I can be outside and I can say, how can I find these berries that fell on the ground? And the answer might come back something like, why don't you put on your glasses?
They are funny sometimes.
They're hilarious. And at the same point in time, I can ask them the deepest question in the universe, and they won't bat an eyelash. They will go, "Oh, okay, and now answer it."
Yeah,
And maybe it's right away. If I'm asking for something, like if I'm asking for, okay, I need tech help right now, and the way will come through, and whatever issue I'm having will work itself out.
yeah.
But it might be something also, it's something so deeply profound that it can't even be imagined how deep it is.
Mhm.
And they'll still answer it.
Yeah. Is one of those questions coming to mind right now?
Well, there's a process that they brought through me that uh, hasn't been hasn't made mainstream yet, but I'm working on that. And so you get to be one of the first to hear about it. It's not like I asked for this to happen. It's not like I said, yeah, that would look really good on my resume. I think I'm going to. It's not the way it works.
Right.
But the process started, and it started actually before the Schumann anomaly, but it worked its way through and eventually became a knowing, rather than they're saying, we want you to do this. It wasn't one of those, it was just knowing. They wanted to take me through a brand new, not brand new, very old, but new to us process. For they watch all of us, and in our current society, the way to get out of form is to go through a whole lot of pain and a whole lot of suffering and all sorts of nasty, horrible things. They're like, no, that's not necessary. The way that they did in their cultures, and people have done it. I mean, the gurus have done it. People around the gurus have done it. Other people who are not, they might have been studying or something, but they didn't do 30 years of meditation, have done it. What they did is make it very much concise so that we don't have to spend 30 years in a cave to be able to leave form, release our energy to the freedom of non-form, without pain, without suffering, as easily as the gurus have done it, if we go through the process.
Okay.
And the process, of course, starts with, we have to get rid of all of our, what I call limiting belief systems, which is LBS. Some people call it BS, which is belief systems. It's, you know, you can
Perfect.
do whatever you want with those.
Yep. And is that like the weight? I feel like it's the weight. You
It
have
is
to
the
take the
weight.
weight off, and then, okay.
Take the
A
weight
way
off
we can
that
understand
way.
it.
Yeah, and we have to believe that it's possible. We have to know that it's possible. Right now, I get told frequently, that's not the way. It's not, it can't be that way. Yes, it can. And they took me through the entire process, and I knew what was happening. I knew how I was lightening my energy is what I called it. The food that I ate, the thoughts that I had, everything, everything. I worked through all of the belief systems, at least I thought I had. And I worked through it, and they took me all the way through, and I had the day planned and everything, and I was doing it, and it was working and working and working, and then suddenly it stopped working. And I went, I think I'm doing something wrong here.
Malfunction here.
Yeah. And they said, no. There's a purpose for this. And now I don't know if you can understand this, but when you get to that point where you're about to release into true freedom and just complete love and unconditional love, bliss, I mean, just, and it's taken away from you and said, no, you have to go back now. It was extremely difficult for me. And I didn't know why I had been, I thought I was supposed to be an example to everybody. And why did they take that away from me?
Yeah.
And they said, because we need you to tell the world about this. And I said, oh, great, wonderful. But I don't feel terribly like it right now. How do I, what do I do here? And then just on cue, I live in the middle of the boonies. Okay. I don't live in like, there's the street outside of my house is barely one lane going each way. And the one next to me is 1.5 lanes. Okay. And I'm not in a really busy place.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of space between the houses, and this lovely, beautiful young lady urchin shows up on my doorstep right afterward. And I went to I mean, she knocked on the door, and she's just gorgeous, but she's just so anxious, and she's just looking around everywhere, and she's like, I don't want to be seen. I can't be seen. I can't. Okay. And she came, I had her come inside, and she was bleeding on her legs and parts of her body. Obviously, she'd been through something to get to that point.
Yeah.
She told me her whole story, and I won't go into that. But the crux of it was she needed help. And I just sat there and listened to her whole story until she was calm enough to do something with this. And I said, well, what would you like to do about it? And she's like, I don't know. And I said, you have some options. You know, I can't stay here. I can't stay in this place. I can't. Okay. There is a place where you can go, where you can be taken to a safe house if you want to go there. do you know what I'm talking about? She said, yes. I said, do you want to go there? She says, yes. Please take me to the police. And I said, you know, by doing that, you will be incriminating not only them, but yourself. Yes, take me to the police. So I did. And then I'm like, okay, so my mission here is to help people. And this is why you made me come back.
Okay.
And they promised me at that point in time, they said, there will come a time when you are so glad you didn't leave. It has happened. It is true. I am so, where I am now is so blissful and so wonderful. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I wouldn't change anything, including my abusive past or the past of being abused. In fact, I've healed that with my mother. That happened with the SDE. And she's actually closer to me now than she ever was in form.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot because they come down to play a role. We teach each other lessons, and they were playing that role. That's one of the longest and clearest messages that I got.
And hardest.
And hardest. And hardest. Yeah.
They gave me that one too. They actually put me in a theater to do it. They put me, myself, only myself in a theater to do it. And they showed me that I'm everybody, including the writer. And by the way, if you happen to be the script writer, you can change the script at any point in time.
Yes.
Wow.
That's our new, I don't want to say our new mental health system, but our new way of being. That's what's coming is, and not to ignore or pass by people's trauma and how they're feeling because they need to process it. But we don't need to keep going down those trails, you know, as long as we have.
And that's how we jump timelines. Right now, there's a lot of talk about quantum jumping and timeline jumping. That's how we do it. You rewrite the script.
Yes. Or do something amazing and kind. What do you think? Or do something intentionally, like not to get a reward to jump timelines, but like try to be that person.
Yes, maybe, but I see it more like, first of all, we have to make the choice. I'm going to be doing this and give it the time to be. I mean, we don't jump timelines just like this. We decide we're going to do something. For instance, every time we have a major change in our life, like maybe we get married or we have a child, we are jumping a timeline. Before was no, and now is yes. And that's jumping a timeline. It doesn't have to be something huge and enormous like a lot of people think. Timeline jumping is really simple and small. And it could be going out and doing random acts of kindness, like you said. And maybe that's your way of getting to wherever the timeline is taking you. And that's a way that you are stepping through to the new timeline.
I have to work, and I'm still working on judgment and forgiveness and knowing that people are playing roles and that even the bad guys are here on a mission.
Yeah.
And
because there, as we mentioned at the very beginning, transformation and change, and we're going through huge transformation to make the brand new world. That's not going to come without chaos first. There's going to be chaos because there are a lot of people are still tied to the old ways. I don't know why. The old ways didn't serve anybody.
They just because they're familiar, apparently. I mean,
they are, but they didn't even serve the people who say they are, you know, the upper crust people. You look at their lives, those ways don't serve them either.
Yeah.
So why would we want to keep them?
That's true. You're right. Yeah.
but that's what's happening, is the old ways are falling away, and there's a lot of people fighting tooth and nail, so to speak, to try and keep them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why?
Yeah. So what do they, so my guys don't, I can't say that they don't tell me a lot about the future, but I am also working on patience. Like I don't ever want a surprise birthday party or something like surprise. And it's just, I don't love that. I'm a true Cancerian, but um, it might not, the outcome might be changed if I know and other people know. But at the same time, they give me enough knowledge to know that things are happening astrologically and on this planet. And during my QHHT hypnosis sessions, people will come in, their higher selves will come in and say, Earth is like going to kick us off. Like, what did one person say? Earth is going to shake a lot of us off like a dog, a wet dog, is what they said.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And not all of us that are here now are going to make it through.
Yeah.
But enough of us, and probably the ones like you and I and the people who are with, that have some inkling of the changes and such,
Yeah.
those are the ones that are more likely to make it through. The ones that'll be going away are the ones who continue to be steadfast in the old way is the only way.
Yeah. And I've also gotten that the people that are so attached to and have been very successful and comfortable navigating this, whatever they call it, like the 3D world, you know, very successful. When things change, that will just be too much for them, and
Yeah.
it won't connect. They won't do very well mentally.
Well, and as the structures fall, everything that is their foundation also falls.
Yeah.
Everything that they consider as their, you know, their way of life,
Yeah.
that all falls because it doesn't serve. And what a lot of them are seeing, and I'm getting a fair number of the rate of pancreatic cancer is jumping. And if we go back all the way to Louise Hay and look at what that means the pancreas is joy of life, and cancer is you a disconnect. You can't fathom, whatever it is. It's a break in that.
Yeah.
And so these are the people who, and we'll just take an example, even though I don't know that this is, I don't know for sure this was what happened to him. But if we look
Okay.
at Steve Jobs, who died of pancreatic cancer, had everything, right? Had
Yeah.
everything. But he also knew, he had to know on some level that he had that at the expense of other people who didn't have that and who couldn't have that. And that's where the break comes in. And he's got the joy of life. They don't. Why does he deserve it more than they do? And I don't know that he was thinking that. I don't know. I don't have any proof of that. But that seems to be a theme of what's happening in the world right now, is those that, as I said, nobody has privilege without it hurting them as much as it hurts anybody else. Privilege hurts
Wow.
one.
Yes. So when we're talking about like narcissistic family structures, which it sounds like you're very familiar with, um, definitely, especially in the religious, you add the narcissism and then the religious bound, like I can't think of many things that are worse. That's up there. And when you think of the golden child, and people are like, oh, this person gets everything, and it must be so nice. No, no,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
it's not that at all. The appearances are not, we just don't see it. That's another lesson, I had to learn. And they, I joke about this now, but I had to feel like they had to allow me to feel what it felt like in different people's lives. I felt that. I'm not an empath that's like, oh, I can feel people's emotions and whatever. I can feel empathy and sympathy and compassion for those people, but not some, right? So I had to feel what that was in order for, that's how that's how deep they had to go with me to be able to get me over the hump. But the golden child was one of them that was not ever what I expected.
Yeah. And you can have the golden child
Yeah.
and the whipping child in the same family.
Yes, that's part of the dynamic. Everybody's got that role. They've got their role.
And
The
in our
scapegoat.
family, in my family,
Yeah.
the golden child was my sister.
Mm-hmm.
She was also, I mean, my mother was not basically nicer to her. My mother was abusive to her too, but I was her whipping child for my sister. And at the same point in time, my sister was being abused too. That's a lot of roles.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, okay, I think I hear what you're saying. Like the golden child is being abused by simply watching the abuse on you. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
For
feeling her
sure.
own abuse too. Yes, she was also abused,
And her own abuse. Right. Okay.
but she was the golden child and the quote uncontrollable child all at the same time. And because
Mm-hmm.
she was quote uncontrollable, my mother had to take it out on me instead.
You were,
But she
yeah.
also took it out on my sister. In fact, my sister has left form. She left her form several years back,
Mm-hmm.
and she did it through alcohol because she couldn't handle the pain.
Mm,
And yet she was the golden child.
yeah. Yeah. That happens a lot. Like we really don't know. I'm learning so much. Like I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all the messages. I'm here to learn. Um, and I think that I'm ready for when these people have their existential crisis or their dark night of the soul. Like that's what happened to me. That's what happened to you. Like we lost everything we thought was important. I was not going down. I was just going down the road of just wanting to be, have this, have that, go here, go there, thinking I was a nice person, but not really doing anything about it except maybe for my children or feeling sympathetic in some way, but not really growing in that way. And so they just uh, ripped me, ripped me out of that role and took me away and then put me back, put me here.
I can't say they necessarily ripped me out of mine. They loved me out of mine. I was not happy in this world, being in this world as I was.
Mm.
And I needed to change. And they lovingly guided me. I mean, yes, there were some real incidents and they were pretty big, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that they ripped me out. They kept
Mm.
making me make choices. Why don't you can do this, like there was one time when I was really sick and they kept saying, it'd be easy to step over that line. You know how easy it would be to step over that line? Oh, it would be so easy to step over that line. Until I finally went, oh, I mean, I've got a high fever. You
Yeah.
want me to make a choice now?
Wow. That is so interesting. And I guess that our paths are to be calmers or, somehow help humanity. We have chosen this, but our stories are so similar, but they are so unique in the same way. Like, I think that my ego really needed and still does. I'm still human. I'm trying to keep the parts of my ego that are good and be confident and all of that. But it's a process. Like it definitely feels like training. And I do feel like the hard part is behind me in terms of training. Like I know what I signed up for now and I'm willing. I'm finally willing. Yeah.
And I am to the point where I have to give, what I have is to give, to be in service, you know, to to allow others who may not yet be where they want to be, to help them get there as a guide. I don't ever make choices for anybody, but I can guide them. And I hear all the time, I don't know where you came up with that, but that's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to get nervous before like doing my Akashic readings or, like I'd have to perform, I'd open the records and I'm like, oh, watch this time my guides, I don't get anything. I'm so nervous I don't get anything. And, it didn't take long for me to realize like, I'm not even doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm just allowing them to come in. And all I had to do was clear that density, clear that weight, clear the LBS and the BS as much as I possibly could,
And that's what we all have to do, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess we're going to
And
be
the ones
teaching
of
others.
us who do that and do the work to do that, those are the ones who are going to move on and stay in the world. The ones who do not want to, well, that's their choice.
Right. Right. But things will be hard. Did they give you anything about like the Flash or the sun or Betelgeuse stars, anything like that?
They don't work on anything like that at all. They're focused, and they are focused. I mean, yes, there was the Atlantean, and we know the story of the Atlanteans. They came here from somewhere else, and the Mu people, and Angkor Wat, a lot of these peoples, Sumerians, who actually were the forerunners to the Egyptians and such, um, they are they came from other places. Okay, that doesn't matter to any of them. It doesn't. What matters is they watched what we're going through in their own societies, and they don't want us to make the same choices that they made. They want us to be able to make the choices so that we can have the world that some of them had before, and that slipped away from them.
Well, the messages that I've been getting and what I'm so impatient about is that it's a light. How do you explain it? It's just a light of knowledge and like a burst of wisdom and consciousness, not not a volcano or an earth tragedy. It's just kind of, and it's going to help the planet. That's nothing that they've said to you.
Oh, the energy waves. Ah, yes. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I'm like, wait a second. I thought it was kind of important, but
We just had one of those, and it was huge. I don't know how anybody could have missed it. And it was called the eclipse.
right, right.
Most of us understood this eclipse was
Yeah, it was
huge.
big.
First of all, it intersected with the same one from 2017, which was also the last total solar eclipse. But those two intersected right over Carbondale. Carbondale.
What does that mean?
Carbondale is a city.
Okay.
I really believe that this is the harbinger for the change in the way that we have, use, and think about energy sources. I think
Okay.
our energy sources are going to change over Carbondale.
Okay.
Got it?
Yes, that is a big
And I'm like,
message too. I'm like, I don't know if the light dawns.
yeah, well,
But
it didn't strike me, and I'm sure they were very much responsible for it until I'm in the eruption, or in the eclipse.
yeah.
Here we saw like this much of the eclipse if you got up way early in the morning and it wasn't cloudy and blah 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 and this and so. I watched it on TV from Mazatlan to Maine, and from Mazatlan to Carbondale. I was in tears of joy feeling the energy that was coming in.
Oh.
And then after Carbondale, the tears stopped. And the message came through, Carbondale. Ah, okay, now I get it.
Now I get it. I mean, uh, I knew or know that that was big, and I spent a lot of time in meditation, contemplation about, some people are saying don't be outside, go inside. Hearing stories about a couple of well-known YouTubers and everything. They're saying, well, in 2017, I was outside and oh, I got so sick, I got this and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you had a spiritual awakening. That's what happened. It's not going to happen, like it was so interesting to me listening to the conversation, and they're like, I'm not doing that again. I'm like, I wonder if that would happen to you again. I don't think you need it anymore, so it wouldn't happen again. It was just very interesting, I
Yeah.
think.
The way I explained it to my granddaughter, who is in her 20s, is,
Yeah.
In 2017, we had the first one. And think about how much your life has changed since 2017. And she's going, yeah, 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 yeah. And I said, now we have this one intersecting that one, which means this one's going to be like that one on steroids.
Yeah.
She went, oh.
Yeah. And so it intersected, and then we had an earthquake. So it was like it made like a pyramid. There was like a big X, and then the earthquake was here like 2 days later up the northeast. I
More
don't know.
energy.
It's yeah,
More
very,
energy.
very, very interesting. Very interesting. So what do they want you to know or people to know about when you said leaving form, that anyone can do it? What is their message about that part?
Their
I have so
message
many questions.
is first and foremost, the number one step here is to understand that you will never die. None of us can die. There's no such thing as death. There is
Okay.
leaving
Right.
form, but there is
Right.
not death. When you don't have death, you can fully live life because you're no longer in fear. And when you let
Got it.
go of all of the rest of the LBS and the BS, then you can live in freedom. And when you live in freedom and love, and you're not in fear, this process becomes natural. You just leave form, and you
So
don't. Your what's left of your form, or what's your energy field that is no longer in the form, is in the words don't work really well in our translation because you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything, but your energy rejoins the ultimate, the infinite
all
energy,
there is.
all there
Yes.
is.
All there is.
But all you do is step out of your body.
Or float
And, well, and this
out,
is,
whatever you want,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Make the
well,
choice.
and this is
Both.
not necessarily new. Ram Dass was talking about it when he was still here, much well when he was in form, and he wanted everyone else to know, especially his followers, he did not want to be grieved for. He
Right.
wanted everyone to celebrate when he left that he was free of form and he was now in freedom and bliss.
Yeah. Even like the cult of Mithras and Zoroastrianism, these are ancient, ancient religions. And they knew. They were like, we don't leave here. We don't, I mean, not that we don't leave here. We don't ever leave. We are always a being. We just leave this place. And
Mhm.
so I do past life regression. It's quantum healing hypnosis technique. So although I say past life regression, mostly they're just bringing the guides because they're in control of those too, are bringing people not to their past lives or their simultaneous lives. They're bringing them to like these healing centers now instead. And then the second half is talking to the higher self. And so when they're in these like scenes, and then we go to the last day of their life, or we're going to leave here, they're guided through that exactly like you just said. You know, they're guided through. They watch their body, and they get to feel that all there is, and just sit in it. You know, um, but then going one step further, it's like, so I'm not afraid to pass now. I get that. That fear is gone. But then I'm like, did I sign up to hurt, to feel pain? And I'm going to take that contract away. How about that? I don't want to experience that. You know, most of the people, they're like, I don't feel the pain as much. Like, I guess you choose that part of the script too before you come here.
Well, you're told you need to, but we've been told for thousands of years that's the way you do it. That's the way you do it. That's the way it needs to be done. That's not true.
That's not
There
true.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be any pain. There doesn't have to be a long illness. There doesn't have to. That is all what we humans have created to fit the model that we've been given. Let's get rid of the model. Let's break down those boxes.
Yeah.
Let's make it something new where we can actually do. I mean, we can live our whole life. And then when we've done what we needed to do and what we came here to do, we can just let go and we can just leave form.
Yeah.
No pain, no suffering, no long illness,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Just
Yeah.
let go.
And it really is. We're the ones that are grieving. Like when my mom passed after the longest illness, you know,
Yeah.
and I was like, I would have been happy if she had gone 2 years, 3 years. Geez, I don't even know how many years, you know. And finally when she passed, I was like, oh, thank goodness, you know, she's gone. But I still was grieving her and grieving her. We're the ones who grieve because we miss them. They are fine.
Because we are holding on to the past and we want to bring back the past, or we would like to bring back the past. We know we can't, but
Mhm.
that's what we would like to do. And I'm not knocking anybody who's grieving. I've been there. I help people go through that process. I know how difficult but transforming it can be.
Yeah.
At the same point in time, humanity will get to the point where that's not necessary anymore, where we will celebrate with them as they transform and they leave form to go into the ether or whatever. I mean, to become everything.
And they can do that themselves. We don't need, you know,
Yeah.
assisted. Yeah. Yeah.
We don't need to be assisted in.
We have the power within us so much.
There are so many examples of those who have done it. You
Yeah.
know, the gurus
Yeah.
who have done it, and a lot of the gurus will actually their bodies might completely because all we are is energy. And when we understand that everything is energy, everything around us is energy, the same energy we are, everything is. Leaving form is just energy changing back to a different form. And then your whole body can be back into form, back into energy too. And that's what the gurus did. That we've got even, recent examples of this in the last not even 50 years of people who've done this.
Yeah. I mean, people are remote viewing now. They're doing astral projection, out of body experiences, and it doesn't seem dangerous. Is it, is there anything that people should be concerned about with any of this stuff? Could they accidentally pass to the other side?
You don't accidentally do anything.
Well, I
it's
mean, we
all
are a
it's
culture
all
raised
part
on
of what
fear,
we're
raised with fear.
it's all part of our experience. um
Yeah.
People choose how to leave, and most of us, well, all of us, I would say, choose that when we're our leaving point. Before we even get here, we know when we're going to leave.
Don't we
You
have
want to
choices
change the
though?
script of how you leave, change the script. You
Okay.
don't have to go through all that suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and there are so many people that are saying that too, that are given recognition, and validation. People are listening, I think. We're kind of just confirming what is on the agenda next, that giving us our power back. And our power really is love, the energy of love. In love is all the healing. In love is all the healing.
And each of us has the
Yeah.
same equal bit of whatever you want to call it, all that is, or whatever else you want to call it. Each of us has the same equal bit of that in us. We are that same equal bit as anyone else, as everyone else.
Yeah.
And when we learn that I keep my power, you keep your power. I
Yeah.
respect you enough not to ask you to give your power away, and you respect me enough to do the same. The world becomes a wonderful place.
Yeah. And you start attracting people that have those same thoughts, vibration, if you will, that are in that same place, and repelling people that don't. And if
And
tell me what
when
you
we
think.
get to the point where everyone does, that's all there is. Everyone does. You're equal to me, I'm equal to you. You don't lead or govern me or you. We just are.
You
When
think
we
that's
lose,
possible in our lifetime, or a little bit longer?
it could be possible. Anything is possible if enough people come on board with it. But the point is, when we do that, all of everything, the nonsense that's going on now, you want to get rid of all this nonsense? All of us take back our power and don't allow anyone else to try and take it from us. When everybody keeps their own power, all this nonsense is gone.
Yeah. And we help each other do that.
Mm-hmm. And we will still have our individuality, our own traits and such. That's what makes a wonderful community. We
Yeah.
have to be, have different things that we can do. But everyone is on an equal playing field, and there's no power games. No power games at all. You just, everybody is equal in that regard.
I never understood those power games. Honestly, like, never. So many things didn't make sense to me, as a kid, even. Like, going, why would they do that? Or why would God do that? Or what's the use of whatever, And, um, going back to that, like, childlike innocence, right? That's what we're going back to, is the purity, and that there's no sin. Exactly. I'm so forever like learning about Mary Magdalene and what she taught, and she said there is no sin, there's experiences here.
And they're coming through right now, so please give me this moment. They're saying two things. First of all, right now the world is made up of me, but where we're moving to is, if we just turn that one letter over and it becomes we. And the thing is, if you have me, the power's going out. If you have we, the power comes in and stays. And that's where we need to be. And that's what they want for all of us, is for all of us to be we.
Mm, that was beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything else that they want to say?
that the basis of everything, all of us, and you've mentioned it already, but I want to emphasize it again, is that it, we call it unconditional love, but it's so much beyond that. It's unconditional bliss in knowing that you belong, that you are part of something and you have a reason for being here, but also that you can be here. And this is what we're making. This is what the younger generations are creating to be. You can be here on this earth. And here's the other part of it. Infinite bliss here on earth. Infinite bliss in leaving form. Infinite bliss in oneness. And they would add on to that. A lot of people talk about this thing they call I am. There is no I in it. There is only amness or am. There is only am. We are all am. And we are all amness.
Amness. I feel like the I am is like the bridge to get there.
It
And it's
has
like the
been.
heartbeat. Like
It
that's
has
the bridge, like I am, and then people acknowledge the divine spark
been,
that
but
lives.
we no longer need the bridge.
Just
We
goes.
are amness and we're ready for amness.
I love that. And I can, yeah, definitely tell when they're coming through. And your eyes get droopy a little when they come through. Yeah.
And the lights are probably doing all kinds of fun things.
Yeah. Well, I'm like sitting here in the dark now, but I did see in the background that the lights were kind of flickering at a couple
Blinking.
points. Yeah, and blinking. So I kept you way over. I said it was going to be a half hour. It's been an hour and a half, and it's right in the middle of your day. So thank you so much for doing this, and I'd really like to do this again if we can. I have a million other questions.
Absolutely. I'm open to it anytime you want.
Thank you so much, Lei. And I'm going to put your information underneath so people can read about your story and um, maybe contact you.
Okay.
That would be okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.